Hey there, welcome to the Mansplained podcast. My name is Jacob. This is the first episode. Today I'm joined with,
Mark, also known as the talent.
he happens to be my dad too, and he's going to be the in-house comedian on the podcast.
But I'm not that funny.
We're going to be talking about the 2020 election, some of our thoughts, predictions, and just some general ideas about today's political climate.
Yeah, and I got to say that I'm in my mid 40s, and this is probably, and this is not hyperbole, the most important election in my lifetime. It's not about personalities. It's not about Donald Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. This is about philosophy. This is about the future of America. This is about the idea of America. Do you want to vote for and continue representative government in this country? And if you do, you don't really have a choice other than to vote for Donald Trump. And if you don't like representative government, that's fine. You can vote for Joe Biden and have declarative government. Declarative government being the government will declare to you what you can do, what you can't do, what your rights are, what your rights aren't. We can take the Constitution and we can throw it in the dustbin of history as an experiment that failed. That's one option. I think that's the worst option. But hey, if you're a commie pinko, Joe Biden is your man.
This is going to be my first election that I'm able to vote in 4 years ago. I was only 17, so I'm very energetic and excited to cast my ballot, pull the lever towards Republican. I've fended off the indoctrination in the colleges, all of my gen ed classes filled with liberal ideas without giving others the chance to speak up. So I'm excited to cast my ballot.
And I'm, of course, excited that I spent 12, 14, 16, $20,000 a year to pay for him to get indoctrinated through the public university system that apparently only likes one set of ideas.
I will say, once I got past my gen ed classes at Eastern Kentucky, like I'm a business major, and the economics courses really showed the flaws in the liberal ideas. And our professor would even say that like there's no such thing as a free lunch. All these things that politicians promise you, free this, free that, it all has to come from somewhere. So it was relieving to hear that for like the first time in my college career. So let's get into our first topic again. I said it'd be the 2020 election. We're gonna just give some general thoughts about it first before we get into the details.
And before we get into the details, some disclaimers. This is the first ever attempt at a podcast by two nobodies who've never done anything like this. But so forgive the pauses and the ums and the ahs and the I don't knows, the not looking at the cameras or speaking into the microphones. We're doing the best we can. And just to be clear, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or a commie or a socialist or a fascist, you're all welcome to listen and you're all welcome to comment and share your ideas. We live in a big tent. We may not agree with you, but we would never pretend to stifle anything that you have to say because, this is the United States of America and you were given by nature's God, and that can be any God, Mother Nature, Earth, Gaia, it doesn't matter. You were given by whatever created you and this planet certain rights, and those rights are protected and enshrined in the Constitution. They're not given to you by government. They're not given to you by Democrats. They're not given to you by Republicans. They're given to you by nature's God. And the Constitution is a limiting document that limits the power of government over the people. It does not limit the people's power over the government. Don't ever forget that, and don't ever give up that cherished principle.
There's a reason the Constitution says we were endowed by a creator, not by the founders, not by a specific party, by the creator, whoever that may be to you. Yeah, I think the goal of this podcast is just kind of give our thoughts of like what would a common man think. We're not living in the gated communities, or we're not protected by the lavish life. So we wanted to give you like a common man's take on some of these issues.
And this is not a political podcast by nature. This is just that time of year and that time of the election cycle. We figured we might as well kick it off with the worst possible topic, politics.
Right. So just some general thoughts on the election. What are you thinking?
Well, I think that Donald Trump's going to win the election in 2020. I wouldn't bet any money on that, though. It's what with all the stuff going on, with all the misinformation, with what's happening in Philadelphia and what happened in Kenosha and what happened in Minneapolis, what's happening with Corona, the politicization of Corona. He's doing a bad job. I'll do a better job. Don't take the vaccine. Take the vaccine. Nobody knows. And I got to think that for the most part, everyone's in favor of opening up. You can't live a life locked in your house like Australia, who just ended their 111-day lockdown in Melbourne. That's not a success.
That's 3.5 months that they kept people locked down in their houses.
I think the pollsters are doing the same thing they did in 2016. And I think certain polling, and I'm not sure which one it is exactly, whether it's the NBC poll or the ABC poll, one of them is just blatant voter suppression tactics. They have Joe Biden up in Wisconsin by 14 or 17 points. There's not a state in the union that has a 14 or 17 point gap anywhere. There's not that many undecided voters. There's not that many people in any one place who are for one side or the other. Even California wouldn't have a 17-point swing. It's just crazy. So the polls are unreliable. Even the ones that say Trump's going to win, I'm not sure they're reliable. There's too many things up in the air. All you can go by is your gut. And if you look around, you see the Joe Biden rallies. He gets 100 cars. He gets 200 cars. He gets 15 people in 6-foot circles. Donald Trump's talking to 5,000, 12,000, 29,000 people in places that shouldn't draw 29,000 people for a Republican. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I mean, you look at what's happening on the street where I live and where I visited. I've been to Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, Michigan's Lower Peninsula, Michigan's Upper Peninsula since Corona started.
Tennessee, Florida. We've been
Tennessee,
all
Florida.
over.
All since this coronavirus nonsense happened, which all happened to be during the presidential election year. And what you see on the street in any of these states is not indicative of a Joe Biden victory. And I'm not lying. If I've seen 20 Joe Biden signs, that would be a high number. Everywhere I go, it's Trump flags, Trump stickers, Trump signs. And the only places I see the Democrat Joe Biden signs.
All right, sorry about that. We said it was our first episode and the camera died. So here we go, back into it.
So right in the middle of my diatribe, of course, we have to stop so I can lose track of thought. But I didn't. Like I was saying, the only places I've seen support for the Democrats, for Joe Biden, in Kentucky where I live, is Amy McGrath, is in front of people's houses who have a lot more money than the middle class. Now, I don't know why that is. It's not traditional. The myth of rich white guys supporting Republicans is a myth these days. All of the money at Wall Street, all of the rich people support Democrats, Hollywood, Amazon. Yeah, at the end of the day, and that's all I'm going to say about the money and the rich people, big tech. You got to ask yourself, why are they supporting the Democrats when they don't ever seem to support the common man, the blue-collar man, the low-income man? None of these people are doing anything for anybody except lining their pockets. And they're using the Democrats to support that. I don't know why. Is it the Biden connection with China? Maybe. But enough about that.
Yeah, I think my general thoughts about this election is that this Biden is like the first candidate ever to hide his policies and say, you don't deserve to know what I think until I'm elected. That's just crazy to me that he expects people to vote for him just because. Why not? Not giving your beliefs and just hoping people blindly vote for you, which half the country's going to do. But I just think that it's crazy that a candidate can run his campaign on, well, just wait and see.
Yeah, vote for me because I'm not that guy. It's unfortunately a terrible byproduct of the two-party system. But it's the party we have, the system we have. That's why it's important to also consider your House and Senate races, because the power is divided between them, right? Not one president gets to dictate what happens. You have to have a House that wants to work with you. You have to have a Senate that wants to work with you. Which, let's just use that to segue into the COVID relief bills and all of that nonsense that's been happening all year. You have Nancy Pelosi, the exalted Speaker of the House, talking about how Trump and the Republicans don't want to work with, my microphone's going to fall off the table, don't want to work with her on a new spending bill, which is, couldn't be further from the truth. The problem is that she wants a spending bill that, of course, yes, it helps COVID relief, but also it's a money gift to states like Illinois and New York and California who have budget deficits that are out of control. Illinois, for example, is on the verge of bankruptcy, and what she wants to do is take money from me in Kentucky and you in Michigan or California or Alaska or Hawaii and say, you know what, you don't need that money in your pocket. The citizens of Illinois need their government to have that money. And I don't care who you are, that should seem like a bad idea to you. If you wanted to pay Illinois taxes, I reckon you'd move to Illinois and pay those taxes. That's what it's really about. And you have a firewall in the Republican Party trying to say, hey, that's not a good idea right now. Bring it up in a separate bill and have a vote. Right now we want to vote on the PPP. We want to vote on the unemployment. We want to vote on small business relief. We want to vote on funding vaccines, remdesivir, Regeneron, any of these things that are going to help people, specifically with COVID. Let's vote on COVID-specific issues. Let's vote on them one issue at a time. We can pass 1,000 bills. It doesn't matter. We don't need one bill that includes all the pork and bad spending that the average guy doesn't know is happening and wouldn't agree with if he did.
One of the common problems with Mitch McConnell in our local races is that he stated to let Kentucky go bankrupt, which is not what he said. It goes off what my dad was saying about the poorly run states and that how the left wants to take the successful states' tax dollars and ship them to other states to cover their poorly run Democratic states, which is what McConnell said, is that we shouldn't allow, the poor, bankrupt, poorly run states to, dip into our pockets because we ran our state government successfully.
Which Kentucky hasn't necessarily run successfully, but as a resident of Kentucky who has to pay the taxes that fund the basically unfunded teachers and public employee union pension benefits that we can't afford anymore because there's so many people on the pension living for so much longer than they planned on. They didn't manage their money. They didn't manage the system. But I don't want Tennessee to pay for Kentucky's teachers' pensions. That's a problem we have to solve in-house. Mm-hmm. And these are issues that Democrats are trying to make national issues, but they're not national issues, they're state issues. The United States is made up of 50 independent sovereign states. If we would use that in Europe, for instance, every country would be an independent sovereign state. We're no different. We're just 50 independent miniature countries that have agreed to come together to form one nation in a constitutionally limited republic.
Yeah, the design was to have 50 small countries within one larger country, and have the power, have an increased power within the states, and have a limited federal government. And I think in the founding that was more how it happened. But now today you see the shift as in the federal power is pretty much controlling everything, rather than giving the states their own decision-making powers.
Obviously, today you're only getting one point of view on these topics. But, that's the way it is. It's my podcast.
So I think now we're going to jump into some map stuff. Right now I have pulled up the 2016 election map. And we just want to compare it to what the 2020 map is looking like based off of, polls. So here you see that Hillary only won a handful of these northeastern states and the West Coast, and the few in the middle.
And for reference, this is on the 270towin.com website. It has an interactive map that you can play with.
Mm-hmm. I'm using it for the interactive bit, not for the reliability of the poll data. So this is what the base map is on 270 to win. Here's the base map, and it has Joe Biden winning at 290, which I don't see that happening. I mean, look at all these states up here that Trump has won, and he's not even calling for Trump. All these states he won. Even Texas he has grayed out almost. which I mean he clearly won all of these states. Michigan he won by a hair, but he still won it. You know, I expect more of the same after what, you know, the economy and the manufacturing jobs he's brought back, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, like they have Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado going blue, leaning blue, and I think it's pretty safe to say that Arizona is going to go for Donald Trump. Texas is going to go for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a lead in Florida that I'm pretty sure is outside the margin of average at this point. When you fill those states in,
Yeah, and Georgia. He won Georgia, no problem. And North Carolina, and South Carolina, and Ohio, and Michigan. And I think he won Wisconsin too, right?
yeah, he won Wisconsin.
I mean, look at that number. Those numbers are starkly different already. Just filling in the states he won last year, which, you know, shouldn't be too hard of a battleground. Even though they're making a big deal out of like Florida and Georgia. I mean, we've been to Florida. There's 6 Biden signs in the whole panhandle.
And in Pennsylvania,
Oh yeah, they have that leaning blue here too.
they like to say that Joe was competitive in Pennsylvania because he's, I don't know, I guess somehow connected to Pennsylvania. You know, he was 6 years old when he moved out of Pennsylvania, but you know, I guess that makes you a lifetime resident and influencer.
And Trump won it in 2016 too. We give that to him.
When Joe Biden said he wants to no new fracking, which that's what he said. So there's some dishonesty in the ads that say Joe Biden's going to end fracking.
Here, let's listen to it. Here he is, right here.
We are going to get rid of fossil fuels.
There it is once.
Folks, that's okay.
I don't know how you're going to put gas in your car or heat your house.
They want to do the same thing I want to do. They want to phase out fossil fuels.
I mean, he said it 4 times in this one little speech. This was in January, by the way, so before all the COVID stuff, but yeah, we knew it was here, and he knew it was here, and he's still having rallies, so.
Please, we're on the same team. Don't be like Trump. I'll talk to you afterwards if you'd like to talk, okay?
Yeah, I challenge you to a push-up contest. Threaten to take you outside and beat you up.
Take you behind the barn. And here he is. Look at him getting rattled.
Well, so is everybody else's future. That's why in our administration we wiped out no more coal plants. That's why we spent. There is one in the hand. We can't do it all at once.
So, I mean, there you go. He said it over and over again, and I don't understand how he can get on the debate stage and say he's never said it, even though clearly there's video record of him saying it.
Now even my co-host is conflating. That wasn't about fracking, that was about fossil fuels, which we'll get to. Which Joe Biden did actually say that he's going to get rid of fossil fuel. So let's just skip to fracking for now. I don't know how you tell Pennsylvania, which has an oil and coal economy, and Texas and Oklahoma, and you know the Dakotas. I'm just going to get rid of fossil fuels. How does that work? What's our alternative? Are we going to use wind and solar electricity to generate the heat to heat the houses in the Northeast? Are people in New York and Vermont and Maine? Are you going to have this winter and you're going to say, oh, I better turn on my electric heat. I hope the wind blows today so I can keep my house above 32 degrees? Is that the plan? There's not a viable alternative in today's technology to meet the energy needs of the United States. Are you going to Fred Flintstone your car around? What are you going to do? You're going to ride your bike? You know, the left lives in a world where people can commute on buses and trains or bikes or walk to work, but if you get outside of New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, California, Portland and Seattle, and, you know, maybe Dallas, Houston, Miami, Tampa, how many of you can walk yourself to work? How many of you live within walking distance or bike riding distance? Does the bus go to the middle of nowhere, Iowa? Can you get to work on a bus in the middle of America? No, you can't. The fact of the matter is half the country, population-wise, and 90% of the country geographically can't get rid of fossil fuels. We have to have gasoline. We have to have diesel fuel. How are the farmers going to plant corn and beans and cotton and wheat? How are we going to feed the world if we can't put diesel fuel on our tractors? I can't imagine a battery-powered tractor You have a 100,000-pound machine with 700 horsepower trying to plow a field, and then, oh, my battery went dead. And how big would that battery be? These just aren't reasonable ideas at this point in time. Maybe in the future, but they're not today, and they're not in 2030, and they're not in 2040. We're a long way away from this. How are you going to have your stores have product when the truck that brings it runs on diesel fuel? I don't know how it works. But the voter in Pennsylvania who makes his living and feeds his family on oil and coal, he certainly isn't happy to hear they're going to get rid of his livelihood. What are they going to do? Is he going to go work at a hotel somewhere? Is he going to take a giant pay cut to work 2 jobs at McDonald's and Arby's? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, given this map, I mean, he should win Iowa again after he won it 4 years ago. And if all these states go red, like we predict them to be, I mean, this map looks identical to the ones 4 years ago. And I mean, they're even giving the split in Nebraska and Maine to Biden, which I don't understand why that would happen.
You have to excuse me while I fix my microphone.
So yeah, let's just take a look at the base map again here that they give you. I mean, all these grayed out states are states that Trump won pretty easily 4 years ago. And even in Michigan he won, Pennsylvania he won. You just can't really trust the polls. I mean, they just want to. My theory is they're trying to downplay the Republican turnout. And back at the 2016 map, if you look at it, I think this is a great example of why we need the Electoral College, in which the left says they want to get rid of because they're butthurt and lost the election 4 years ago. I mean, if you look at this, there's a vast majority of states here are red compared to the blue.
Pull up a county.
Of what? Just the whole country?
Pull up a county, a map, electoral map by county.
There we are. By county. Here it is by county. Even a bigger margin for the red Republicans. Anyone looking at this map should say, yeah, I think it's pretty important to not let the popular vote decide who wins the presidency. Just based on this. You don't even know what the parties are. You could make these orange and yellow or orange and purple, and you would still say the majority color, should be the deciding vote of the country, not just the 1,700 million people that live right here or right here.
And that goes back to being 50 independent states. Because the city of Los Angeles alone would have a popular vote count that cancels out multiple states. And I don't know that they're any more important than anyone else. You get what you get. That's the way they designed it. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. So let's just wrap this up with our predictions. You say Trump's going to win?
Trump's going to win. I don't think it's going to be a landslide. He's going to win Florida. He's going to win North Carolina. He's going to win Arizona. He's going to win Pennsylvania and Michigan. I don't know about Wisconsin, but I do know for some reason Joe Biden's spending an awful lot of time and money campaigning in Wisconsin. That they seem to think they have a 14 or 17-point lead in. I don't know why I'd spend any time or money in Wisconsin if that was the truth. So the internal campaign polling must be quite a bit different than the average polling, which is all we have to go on as private citizens without millions and millions of dollars to run our own polls to get a result that we predetermined by the questions that we asked and who we asked them of.
Yeah. We're going to transition now into we're just going to see the difference in work ethic between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I'd like to point out that Trump's been doing 3 rallies a day for the last month.
And he's going to start doing 5 a day.
5 a day. And what's Joe been up to?
Joe spent the majority of the summer and the early fall with a lid on it.
In the basement, locked up like he was in Australia. The man running for the most powerful position in office should not be cowering in the bunker. He needs to be out there, fighting for us, fighting for you, with your best interests at mind,
And if you don't have the stamina to get out there and work hard, to campaign in the field, to get out and talk to the people, what's going to happen when that mythical 2 o'clock phone call comes into the White House and says the embassy in Benghazi is being attacked, and Joe Biden answers the phone, oh, he's probably not going to answer the phone because he doesn't have the stamina to get up and answer the phone. And we know how that turned out under Obama.
And Biden.
Yep. Those guys are dead, and they didn't do a goddamn thing to save them. And that's ridiculous. And that should be enough to make you say anybody from the Obama administration, the Obama-Biden administration, isn't qualified to be in charge of anything in this country.
Yeah, I think that also outlines the stark difference between foreign policy between the previous administration and Trump's administration. Like, in his first months in office, he dropped a MOAB right on top of, who was it? Syria?
I don't remember exactly, but
Yeah, I mean, that just sets the precedent for how he's going to run our foreign affairs. He has completely wiped out ISIS, which Obama and Biden left him as a huge problem, you know.
and he's ending the endless, needless wars at this point in time. He's just over 21 years old, and for 20 of those years, the country's been at war. Does that make any sense? His entire life, we've been warring with somebody. And I know, the Republicans are war hawks and blah, blah, blah. But here you have a Republican president saying, enough of this. This is nonsense. And you have Democrats saying, no, stay, keep the war going. You have all these liberal generals, the generals say, well, who gives a shit what the generals say? They work for us. And now they're all retired and they're working for the defense industry. Who makes their money by what?
War.
Building, selling bombs. If we're not blowing up bombs, we don't need to buy new bombs. So they want the wars to continue. And they don't get a say. We get a say. And I'm tired of wars. I'm tired of young men and young women going to places that nobody cares about and losing their arm or their leg, getting killed, and all for nothing. Nothing.
I mean, the war, like you said, the war's been going on for 20 years. And there's been progress made, sure, but there's been no real largely governmental change in these countries that we were hoping for. So it's just time to pull out. But back to the rallies and stuff, I have a couple clips of here's President Trump at his Omaha rally with 29,000 people at it. Again, this was like his last one of the night, so he had done 2 hour-and-a-half rallies prior to this. I mean, look at the energy and the people here.
You can hear the crowd. They're chanting USA. That's the biggest takeaway from any of this is Donald Trump is getting the support of people who love America, who know that America is the last best hope on earth. Why do people from Guatemala want to come here? Why do people from Cuba want to come here? Why do people from Venezuela want to come here? Why do people from Eastern Europe want to come here? Why do people from Somalia want to come here? Because this is a land that actually has an opportunity that you can work hard and you can do something and make your own way. It seems that the majority of the American citizen who was born here has forgotten that little fact, and they want to stick their hand out for government to pay off their student loan, to pay their $100,000 they owe at Ivy League school because they took a course in park management that doesn't really pay any money. But you got people coming here in any way they can get here. Caravans, rafts, trucks, planes. They don't care. They just want to get here. And they don't care if they come legal. They don't care if they come illegally. They'll risk it because here they have an opportunity to be something, to build something where they didn't have in their own country.
Yep. If you look at Venezuela currently, I mean, you can see the major differences between us and them. And we're on a slippery slope to become more like Venezuela on November 3rd, and after.
And where do we go? Where do we go from here? If America becomes a democratic socialist country, which isn't even a thing, if we become a socialist nation and tax rates go up, declaratory government goes up, your health care and health choices are run by the state, where do we go to start over, to get a fresh start? Where do you go to regain your liberty? I don't know.
And now we have a clip here from Sky News about one of Biden's rallies, one of his car rallies.
In Bidenville. He had a rally too. 30 people showed up and they had to sit in a car park. And they were very socially distanced. And also, what was interesting to know was even members of the media who hate Donald Trump, with their telephones, were able to pick up a crowd of Trump supporters that were louder than the Biden people who could honk their horn. Oh, yeah, and Biden's losing his brain. One.
You know, we have to come together. That's why I'm running. I'm running as a proud Democrat.
Two.
You may remember I got in trouble when we were running against the senator who was a Mormon, the governor, okay?
I just noticed watching this clip. I'd never seen it before. This is Sky News. I assumed it was England,
England or Australia.
but it's actually Sky News Australia.
I was going to say, isn't it crazy that the only way you can find criticism of Joe Biden is through the Australian Sky News?
Yeah, why do you have to go to the International News Corps to say to see things that MSNBC, CNN, Headline News, CNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC as a whole, Fox Network Television? None of these news sources will tell you these things. They won't show you these things. The New York Times doesn't report it. The Los Angeles Times doesn't report it. The Detroit Free Press doesn't report it. Where is a common person supposed to get their news? Everyone talks about how left or how right-wing Fox News is, and I'll grant you their opinion side. If you tune in at 8 o'clock and after, it's nonstop right-wing machine.
And they present it as such, though.
Yeah, but they don't lie about who they are. But when you listen, when you watch from morning 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and then from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, it's pretty straight news. It's just old news where they actually report on 2 points of view instead of just 1 point of view.
I read a book by Sean Hannity, his newest one, Live Free or Die, I believe it's called. And in the book, he shows a study that was done about different news broadcasts and how many stories of Donald Trump they covered and their negative versus positive ratio. And every one of those ones that they studied, it was all the major ones, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, were all skewed negatively. Even Fox News had greater than 50% of their news coverage of Donald Trump being negative. So you can't say that they're biased. Just because their ratio isn't 90%, but instead it's 60% negative Donald Trump news, that's not biased. That's shooting more towards straight down the arrow, down the line.
Or if anything, it is in fact biased against Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean biased toward him. Like, you can't say that it is when the study shows.
I saw someone talk about a study the other day, and I don't know what it is, so do your own research, but 92% of all reporting on Donald Trump since he announced he was running for president has been negative. 92%. Is it surprising that people have a negative view of Donald Trump?
Might be the same one.
And he doesn't help himself with his use of language. If you can't read between the lines, he does sound crass. He sounds rude. He sounds a lot of things that a lot of people in America or around the world, they don't talk like that. They don't understand what he's trying to say. You really got to read between the lines sometimes because of the language that he uses, the words that he chooses to use is what I mean by language. And but when you're fighting a 92% negative news ratio, you don't have much choice. You have to go on Twitter and be an ass because that's the only way you can get a different lens on whatever the news media as a whole is talking about.
That's why it's so important right now, these hearings in the Congress with Twitter, Facebook, and all them. You know, the social media platforms are his only method of getting his voice out to people that actually want to hear what he says. Because if you go to the news stations, like I said before, every one of them skews him in a negative light. So how do you find, the balance? You have to go to the horse's mouth and hear what he is saying.
And here's a perfect example of the oppression on social media. And you roll your eyes, oh, the conservatives are oppressed on social media. Well, 2 days ago, the social media and the Google giants were testifying in front of the Senate, asking about why they're centering the New York Post story on Hunter Biden, among other things that they do. That was 2 days ago. 1 day ago. So for the slow people, that's 1 day after they were testifying about censorship and how, we don't do that. They actually locked the Twitter account of the head of the Customs and Border Protection Agency because he violated the standards, allegedly, by talking about building the wall and how every day they're building more wall. Because he said that, they locked it out because it was hate speech. I'm not college educated, barely got out of high school because I was a lazy student. But I'm pretty goddamn sure that talking about building the wall to stop murderers, child smugglers,
Coyotes.
sex traffickers, and drugs is not hate speech. Just because we put a wall up to stop things from coming into the country illegally doesn't mean that we were not going to allow Hispanics and Southern Hemisphere folks and Latin American folks into the country. It just means they can't walk across the desert and drowned, or he's put in the back of a U-Haul truck and driven across the border and left to die in the back of the truck by their coyotes, those four-legged furry dogs.
Most women that come across the border illegally have been raped by the coyotes. It is not a safe process to come here illegally. Not for the people in America and not for the people actually trying to come here. Like, there's been studies showing that like a disproportionate amount of women that come across illegally have been raped. And that's not okay, There should be an avenue for them to come legally, and there is.
And maybe we need to address our legal immigration system. That may be something we can have an honest discussion about. But first, we have to stop the illegal immigration before we can worry about the legal immigration. If we have a flood of people, and this isn't a race issue, because guess what, guys? It's not just Mexicans. It's not just Hispanics. People from all over the world come to the United States through Mexico and through Canada. Yep, Canada. Nobody talks about the Canadian border. But I lived on the Canadian border for most of my life, and it was a major problem with Chinese nationals coming through Canada into the United States from the northern route.
Yeah, I agree with the statement of maybe we can address the immigration policies and stuff, but just saying, oh, it's open season, just come on across. That's not an honest discussion. That's you can't go to an automatic polar opposite of having borders. So,
And since we've somehow landed on illegal immigration, let's talk about the support that the left has for legal immigration. The left, the party of the quote-unquote working man, is how they've always billed themselves in this country. If you are an uneducated laborer, can you afford to import a group of people who can do your work for less money, no benefits, and who, by the way, a lot of times don't pay taxes because they work for unscrupulous employers who don't deduct taxes, don't offer them benefits, don't offer them workman's comp. And same in the ethnic minority community. You have the black community, you have the existing Latino community in some of these cities. Do we need to import more unskilled labor to take their jobs from them? I don't think that helps anybody. That's why we need to stop illegal immigration. And then we can have real immigration from all over the world. All right. I'm sure you guys will never notice, but we had yet another technical difficulty with the camera. We got that straightened out. And I was rallying against illegal immigration and for legal immigration. But I got the wrap sign from the producer. So he wants us to wrap this up. But before we do that, I got one more thing to say that's election related, and that has to do with rich white liberals like Chelsea Handler
racist.
Telling people in the black community that they can't vote for Democrats, or for Republicans, I'm sorry, that they have to vote for Democrats. And there's been a lot of that going on, white people telling the black community that they have to vote a certain way. And I tell you, as a human being, that really, really upsets me. Who are these people to tell any other person that they have to do something based on the color of their skin? That's the definition of racism. I don't care if you vote Democrat, Green, Socialist, Republican, Libertarian. It doesn't matter how you vote. You are an individual person. You have an individual idea that you want to see going forward. You have that right. You can vote any way you want to vote for any party that you want to vote for, because what you need to do as a person, any person, is to vote for what is best for you, what is best for your family. It doesn't matter what's best for your neighbor. It doesn't matter what's best for anybody else. That may be hard for some of you people to hear because you're judged in your social circle by what you think is best for somebody else, which is all nonsense. What's best for you is what's best for you, and that's how you need to concern yourself. And if everybody does that, what's best for the group will come out on top every single time. And to say that if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black, I had to remind Fiddy that he was black. These are racist concepts, and it's not acceptable at any level. You can't tell me that I have to vote for Donald Trump because I'm a white male. I can vote for anybody I want to vote for because I have the personal freedom to do that. And it's nobody's business to tell me how to vote. And I'm not telling any of you, the 6 of you that listen to this show today or next year, whenever you heard it, how to vote. It doesn't matter how you vote. I just want you to research, form opinions that matter to you, not to your neighbor, not to your friends, not to your social media, not to your economics professor. You have to vote for what's best for you.
When you're in that box, it's just you, the pencil, and the paper. You're there alone with your thoughts without the judgment of anybody else. Vote your conscious, vote how you think you should vote.
Yep. We have to vote for whatever your idea of America is. Is America a perfect country? No, I would say. Is America the best opportunity in the world for someone to get ahead, to have an idea, to articulate an idea? Yes, I think it is. And with that, I guess we'll end the 2020 election coverage, pre-election coverage, because maybe we'll talk about the post-election of the Mansplained podcast, the inaugural, the very first ever iteration of 2 dudes sitting in their dirty garage talking about stuff that interests them and probably nobody else. But we're going to put it up on YouTube. We're going to push it out. And you have the opportunity to tell us what you think.
Yeah, again, thank you for watching or listening. If you did, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. We want to have discussion. One of my favorite things to do is have discussions with people about their policies and their beliefs. So
Honest.
Yeah, let us know. We'll reach out. Maybe have your comment on the show and discuss it. So it's just again, we're just 2 middle-class people giving some thoughts that as common men. Jacob.
I'm Mark, and we welcome your intellectually honest points of view, not your talking points, not your platitudes. Bring it real to us, we'll bring it real to you. Next episode hasn't been decided yet, but it won't be politics, it'll probably be something fun.
Yeah.
But maybe it won't be fun for you.